Right now, as you settle into this moment of cosmic contemplation, you're participating in something extraordinary. You're pondering, what if we're not alone in this vast universe? But what if that's actually the most terrifying possibility of all? Tonight, we're venturing into territory where cutting-edge science meets existential dread, where the silence of space might not represent absence, but presence, something watching, waiting, and perhaps actively ensuring that certain voices never join the cosmic conversation. Before we embark on this journey together, I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight, and if you believe aliens are preventing us from advancing. And if you find these videos entertaining, I'd be grateful if you gave this video a like and perhaps subscribe to join our community of cosmic truth seekers. Get ready. The journey begins now. This is the story of the Great Filter, and by the time we're finished tonight, you'll understand why some of the world's most brilliant minds believe we might be living in a universe where intelligence itself is under surveillance, where every radio signal we broadcast could be a death sentence, and where the very act of reaching for the stars might be precisely what ensures we never touch them. Picture the scene from 1950. It's a summer day at Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico, and four of the world's most brilliant physicists are walking to lunch. They're discussing flying saucers, the recent wave of UFO sightings that have been capturing headlines across America. The conversation is light, almost playful, as these titans of science joke about the possibility of faster-than-light travel and alien visitations. Then, as they settle into their seats at the cafeteria, one of them falls silent. His mind has wandered from the casual banter to something far more profound. The numbers are swirling in his head. 200 billion stars in our galaxy alone. Billions of years of cosmic evolution. Countless opportunities for life to emerge, evolve, and spread across the cosmos. Suddenly, Enrico Fermi looks up at his colleagues and asks a question that will haunt humanity for decades to come. Where are they? Those three simple words contain within them one of the most profound mysteries our species has ever encountered. With the vast scale of the universe and the almost incomprehensible amount of time that has passed since the Big Bang, the emergence of intelligent life should be not just possible, but inevitable. Common even. We should be surrounded by evidence of alien civilizations. Our radio telescopes should be picking up their transmissions. Our spacecraft should be encountering their artifacts. The very fact that we exist proves that intelligence can evolve in this universe. So why aren't we seeing it everywhere else? This became known as the Fermi Paradox, and for over 70 years, scientists have been wrestling with its implications. Every attempt to resolve it leads to more questions, more unsettling possibilities about the nature of life and intelligence in our cosmos. The mathematics are staggering when we consider the sheer scale of the universe, with billions of galaxies containing trillions of stars and the discovery of thousands of exoplanets in habitable zones. The statistical likelihood of Earth being the only planet to develop intelligent life seems astronomically small. Yet here we sit, in cosmic silence. In 1996, an economist named Robin Hanson proposed a solution so disturbing that it fundamentally changed how we think about humanity's future. Writing from his office at the Future of Humanity Institute at Oxford University, Hanson introduced the world to a concept he called the Great Filter. His theory was elegant in its simplicity and terrifying in its implications. The Great Filter suggests that somewhere along the evolutionary path from non-living matter to spacefaring civilizations, there exists a barrier so insurmountable that virtually no species can cross it. Think of it as a cosmic checkpoint that filters out almost all potential life, leaving the universe largely empty and silent. This filter could be behind us, explaining why we see no aliens despite the vast cosmos. Or it could be ahead of us, waiting to claim our civilization, just as it has claimed countless others. The stakes couldn't be higher. If the great filter lies in our past, then we are among the incredibly fortunate few who have somehow beaten impossible odds. We are the cosmic lottery winners, the statistical anomalies who manage to evolve intelligence in a universe where such evolution is extraordinarily rare. But if the great filter lies in our future, then we are walking blindly toward our own extinction. Every technological advance, every step forward in our development as a species brings us closer to an invisible wall that has stopped every other civilization that has ever tried to cross it. To understand which scenario we're facing, we need to trace the evolutionary path that brought us to this moment. Hansen outlined 9 critical steps that any species must navigate to achieve what he called explosive lasting life, the ability to spread across the galaxy and establish a permanent presence among the stars. The journey begins with the right star system. Not just any star will do. The stellar neighborhood must contain the proper mix of heavy elements forged in the hearts of previous generations of stars. Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, all the building blocks of complex chemistry must be present in sufficient quantities. The star itself must be stable, burning steadily for billions of years without the violent flares and variations that would sterilize any nearby planets. Even with the right star, you need the right planet. It must orbit within the narrow habitable zone where liquid water can exist on the surface. Too close to the star, and water boils away into space. Too far, and it freezes into ice, locking away one of life's most essential ingredients. The planet needs the right mass to hold onto its atmosphere, the right magnetic field to deflect deadly cosmic radiation, and probably the right moon to stabilize its rotation and create the tidal forces that may have been crucial for early life. These conditions might sound reasonable until you start running the numbers. Of the thousands of exoplanets we've discovered, only a tiny fraction meet all these requirements. Most orbit too close or too far from their stars. Many circle red dwarf stars that bombard their planets with deadly radiation. Others lack the stable conditions needed for billions of years of continuous evolution. But let's assume we've won this first cosmic lottery. We have the perfect star, the perfect planet, all the right ingredients sitting in a warm ocean under a protective atmosphere. What comes next is the emergence of reproductive molecules. This is where things get truly mysterious. Somewhere in the primordial soup of early Earth, non-living chemicals must organize themselves into the first self-replicating molecules. This process, called Abiogenesis, represents one of the most profound transitions in the history of the universe, the moment when dead matter first came alive. Scientists have been trying to recreate this moment in laboratories for decades. The famous Miller-Urey experiment of the 1950s showed that organic molecules could indeed form under conditions similar to those of early Earth. But creating a few amino acids in a test tube is vastly different from spontaneously generating the complex self-replicating molecular machines that define life. Consider what must happen for abiogenesis to succeed. You need the right mix of chemicals in the right proportions, exposed to the right energy sources under the right environmental conditions for exactly the right amount of time. Too much energy and the delicate molecular structures get torn apart. Too little and nothing interesting happens. The window of opportunity might be incredibly narrow. Even more challenging is the chicken and egg problem at the heart of life itself. DNA stores genetic information but can't replicate without proteins. Proteins can facilitate replication but can't store information without DNA. How do you bootstrap this system from nothing? Some estimates suggest that the probability of life spontaneously emerging from non-living matter could be vanishingly small, perhaps 1 in a trillion. These odds are so astronomical that Earth might be the only world in our galaxy where this miraculous transition ever occurred. We could be looking at the first great filter right here, at the very beginning of life's journey. But traditional thinking about the great filter has always focused on natural barriers, the biological hurdles, the technological traps, the cosmic disasters that might eliminate civilizations through natural processes. Nuclear war, climate change, asteroid impacts, the development of artificial intelligence that turns against its creators. These are the filters that most scientists have contemplated, the barriers that civilizations might face through their own actions or cosmic misfortune. Yet there's another possibility that some researchers have begun to explore, one that transforms the great filter from a natural phenomenon into something far more sinister. What if the barrier isn't natural at all? What if the silence we observe isn't due to civilizations destroying themselves or being destroyed by cosmic accidents, but because they're being systematically eliminated by something else? What if aliens themselves are the great filter? This hypothesis suggests a universe far different from the one we typically imagine. Instead of empty space waiting to be filled by expanding civilizations, we might inhabit a cosmos where advanced species actively prevent younger civilizations from reaching technological maturity. The galaxy could be teeming with intelligence, but it might be intelligence with a very specific purpose, ensuring that only certain voices are ever allowed to join the cosmic conversation. The logic behind such a system could be coldly rational. From the perspective of an advanced civilization that has achieved stability and security across multiple star systems, the emergence of new technological species represents an existential threat. Young civilizations are unpredictable, aggressive, and potentially dangerous. They develop nuclear weapons before they develop wisdom. They alter their planetary environments before they understand the consequences. They broadcast their presence across the galaxy before they comprehend what might be listening. Any species that has survived long enough to become truly advanced would have learned hard lessons about the dangers of unrestricted technological development. They might view emerging civilizations not as potential partners in galactic community, but as cancer cells that must be eliminated before they can metastasize across the stars. This perspective gains credibility when we consider how competition and conflict have shaped evolution on our own planet. Every ecosystem is defined by predator-prey relationships, territorial disputes, and resource competition. Violence and aggression aren't aberrations in the natural world. They're fundamental features of how life operates when survival is uncertain. Why should interstellar civilizations be any different? The same evolutionary pressures that produced human warfare and tribal conflict would likely shape alien psychology as well. Species that survived long enough to develop technology probably did so by outcompeting other species, by being more aggressive, more paranoid, more willing to use violence to secure resources and territory. Even if a species developed peaceful tendencies during their early evolution, the transition to spacefaring civilization might select for more aggressive traits. The groups willing to expand aggressively, to claim territory and resources before competitors arrive, would have significant advantages over more cautious civilizations. Over millions of years, this selection pressure might produce a galaxy dominated by species with distinctly predatory characteristics. This brings us to one of the most chilling theories in modern astrobiology, the dark forest hypothesis. Named after Liu Cixin's haunting science fiction novel, this theory suggests that the universe isn't empty because civilizations destroy themselves, but because they destroy each other. Imagine the cosmos as a vast, dark forest where every civilization is a hunter, moving silently through the trees. Each species knows that others exist somewhere in the darkness, but revealing your location by sending signals or expanding too aggressively might attract the attention of a more advanced predator. In this scenario, the safest strategy is to remain hidden, to develop your technology in secret, and to eliminate any potential threats before they can eliminate you. The logic is coldly rational. If you discover another civilization, you face an impossible dilemma. They might be peaceful, but you can't know for certain. They might remain peaceful today, but become aggressive tomorrow as their technology advances. Even if they have no hostile intentions, their mere existence poses an existential risk to your species. Resources are finite, territory is limited. Eventually, your expanding civilizations might come into conflict. The only way to guarantee your species' survival is to strike first, to eliminate potential competitors before they become powerful enough to threaten you. And if every civilization follows this logic, the galaxy becomes a killing field where the first to be detected is the first to die. This hypothesis offers a chilling explanation for the Great Silence. Perhaps the universe is teeming with advanced civilizations, but they've all learned to hide. Perhaps the radio signals we've been searching for are actually death sentences, beacons that attract the attention of cosmic predators. Perhaps the civilizations that survived long enough to spread across the galaxy are the ones that mastered the art of remaining invisible. Under this scenario, our own SETI efforts might be monumentally dangerous. Every radio telescope pointed at the stars, every message broadcast into space, every attempt to make contact could be signing humanity's death warrant. We might be like children playing with matches in a forest full of hidden snipers, drawing attention to ourselves without understanding the consequences. The timescales involved make this scenario even more terrifying. A civilization that's been hiding and developing technology for millions of years, longer than humanity, would possess capabilities we can barely imagine. They might have weapons that could sterilize entire star systems, surveillance networks that can detect technological activity across galactic distances, or the ability to manipulate space and time in ways that make defense impossible. Against such opponents, newly emerged civilizations like humanity would be completely helpless. We might already be under observation by hidden watchers who are simply waiting for us to become enough of a threat to warrant elimination. Our nuclear weapons, which seem so formidable to us, might be no more significant than stone tools to a civilization with millions of years of technological advancement. But the dark forest hypothesis represents just one possible explanation for our cosmic isolation. There's another scenario that might be even more unsettling because it suggests that the great filter isn't external at all, but built into the very nature of intelligence itself. Tonight, as we continue this exploration of humanity's potential fate, we must grapple with the possibility that our entire species exists in a narrow window between cosmic birth and cosmic death, racing against invisible clocks we don't understand. Toward a finish line we may never reach, the silence from space isn't just an absence of sound. It might be evidence of the most ruthless selection pressure in the universe, one that ensures only the most perfectly adapted predators survive to shape the galaxy according to their will. And we may have already attracted there. What makes this possibility even more disturbing is that we might already be providing the evidence for our own elimination. For the past century, humanity has been broadcasting our presence to the cosmos with increasing intensity and sophistication. Every television transmission, every radio broadcast, every radar pulse has been radiating outward from Earth at the speed of light, creating an expanding sphere of electromagnetic noise that announces our location to anyone who might be listening. Consider what this means from the perspective of a hypothetical galactic monitoring system. In 1936, the Berlin Olympics became one of the first major television broadcasts powerful enough to escape Earth's atmosphere. That signal, carrying images of human civilization at its technological adolescence, is now nearly 90 light-years from Earth, having potentially reached thousands of star systems. By cosmic standards, we lit up like a beacon less than a century ago. But our electromagnetic signature has grown exponentially more complex and revealing since then. The development of high-powered radar systems during World War II created pulses of energy so intense they could be detected across interstellar distances by sufficiently advanced civilizations. Military radar installations, designed to detect incoming aircraft, or unknowingly announcing humanity's technological capabilities to the galaxy. The space age brought even more dramatic revelations of our presence. In 1974, astronomers used the Arecibo radio telescope to broadcast a deliberate message toward the globular star cluster M13, some 25,000 light-years away. This transmission, known as the Arecibo message, contained information about human biology, our solar system, and the telescope itself. We essentially sent a postcard to the cosmos saying, "Here we are, this is what we look like, and this is where you can find us." Even more revealing was the Voyager Golden Record, launched aboard both Voyager spacecraft in 1977. These records contain sounds and images selected to portray the diversity of life and culture on Earth. They include spoken greetings in multiple languages, musical selections from different cultures, sounds of nature, and even the brain waves of a human in love. Carl Sagan and his team created what amounts to a comprehensive introduction to human civilization, now traveling through interstellar space. From an alien predator's perspective, these broadcasts might represent the perfect intelligence gathering opportunity. They wouldn't need to send probes or risk detection by studying us directly. We're voluntarily providing detailed information about our biology, our technology, our culture, and our exact location. It would be like a military force broadcasting their battle plans, troop positions, and strategic capabilities to enemy forces. The timing of our electromagnetic emergence might be particularly unfortunate. We began broadcasting powerful signals just as our civilization reached a level of technological development that could be perceived as threatening by advanced species. Nuclear weapons, space travel, and global communication networks all emerged within decades of each other, creating a perfect storm of capabilities that might trigger a preemptive response from hidden watchers. Modern SETI efforts have made this situation even more precarious. Projects like Breakthrough Listen are not just passively searching for alien signals, they're actively broadcasting messages into space. The Messaging Extraterrestrial Intelligence (METI) movement has sent targeted transmissions toward potentially habitable exoplanets, essentially knocking on cosmic doors without knowing what might answer. Some scientists have raised serious concerns about these active SETI efforts. In 2015, a group of researchers, including Stephen Hawking, warned that attempting to contact alien civilizations could be extremely dangerous for humanity. Hawking famously stated that if aliens visit us, the outcome might be similar to when Columbus landed in America, which didn't turn out well for the Native Americans. But here's where the alien enforcement hypothesis becomes truly chilling. What if advanced civilizations don't wait for emerging species to become a threat? What if they've developed sophisticated early warning systems that can detect the electromagnetic signatures of developing technology from thousands of light years away? Such a monitoring network would be entirely feasible for a sufficiently advanced civilization. Arrays of radio telescopes positioned throughout the galaxy could continuously scan for the telltale signs of emerging intelligence. The sudden appearance of organized radio emissions, the spectral signatures of industrial pollution in planetary atmospheres, the heat signatures of nuclear detonations, all of these could serve as triggers for immediate intervention. The response wouldn't need to be dramatic or obvious. A civilization capable of monitoring the entire galaxy would possess technologies that could eliminate threats with surgical precision. They might deploy self-replicating probes that could reach target systems within centuries, arriving long before the emerging civilization could develop adequate defenses. These probes wouldn't need to announce their presence or engage in direct warfare. They could operate through subtlety and misdirection, perhaps triggering natural disasters that appear entirely coincidental. A carefully placed asteroid impact, the destabilization of a planet's magnetic field, or the introduction of engineered pathogens could eliminate a threatening civilization while leaving no evidence of external intervention. From our perspective, such events would appear to be natural disasters or the inevitable consequences of our own technological development. We might never realize that our extinction was actually a calculated elimination carried out by forces beyond our comprehension. This scenario gains additional credibility when we consider the concept of the zoo hypothesis. Perhaps advanced civilizations don't immediately eliminate emerging species, but instead maintain them under careful observation and control. Earth might exist within a kind of cosmic preserve, with our development carefully managed to ensure we never become a genuine threat. Such management could be so subtle that we would never detect it. Occasional UFO sightings might represent monitoring activities rather than first contact attempts. Mysterious technological failures, unexplained atmospheric phenomena, or even certain historical events could be interventions designed to keep our development within acceptable parameters. The zookeepers might allow us considerable freedom within our designated boundaries, but any attempt to break free, to develop truly dangerous technologies, or to expand beyond our solar system could trigger immediate corrective action. We might be living our entire civilization under a sword of Damocles, unaware that our continued existence depends on staying within limits we don't even know exist. Consider how this would explain some of the puzzling aspects of our technological development. Despite decades of effort and enormous financial investment, human space travel has remained remarkably limited. We reached the moon in 1969, but haven't returned since 1972. Our robotic exploration of the solar system proceeds at a glacial pace compared to what should be technologically possible. Fusion power, which could provide unlimited clean energy and enable interstellar travel, has remained perpetually 20 years away for over half a century. Advanced propulsion concepts like antimatter engines or breakthrough physics remain stubbornly theoretical, despite intense research efforts. Perhaps these limitations aren't due to natural technological barriers or lack of resources. Perhaps they represent the boundaries of our cosmic zoo, enforced by mechanisms so sophisticated we interpret them as natural limitations rather than external constraints. The psychological impact of living under such conditions would be profound and largely unconscious. Humanity might have developed what we could call learned helplessness on a species level, accepting limitations that seem insurmountable but are actually artificially imposed. We dream of reaching the stars but consistently fail to develop the technologies that would make such dreams reality. This enforcement system could be remarkably efficient. Rather than requiring constant intervention, it might operate through periodic adjustments that redirect our development away from dangerous paths. Key scientists might suffer mysterious accidents at crucial moments. Promising research programs might lose funding due to seemingly unrelated political or economic factors. Critical technological breakthroughs might be delayed or misdirected through subtle manipulation of information flows. The beauty of such a system, from the enforcer's perspective, is that the managed civilization would never realize they were being controlled. Every setback would have plausible natural explanations. Every limitation would seem to arise from genuine technological or resource constraints. The prison would be invisible because the prisoners would construct it themselves, believing they were simply facing the normal challenges of scientific and technological development. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the alien enforcement hypothesis is its self-reinforcing nature. If advanced civilizations do maintain strict control over emerging species, then the galaxy would naturally evolve toward a stable configuration where only the original enforcers possess truly advanced technology. Any new civilization that somehow managed to break free from control would immediately recognize the threat posed by other emerging species and would likely adopt similar enforcement policies. Over millions of years, this could create a galactic civilization based entirely on the principle of preventing other civilizations from achieving technological maturity. The enforcers wouldn't be evil in any conventional sense. They might genuinely believe they're maintaining cosmic stability and preventing the kind of chaotic expansion that could destabilize entire regions of the galaxy. From their perspective, emerging civilizations like humanity represent a form of cosmic cancer that must be excised before it can spread. Our tendency toward warfare, environmental destruction, and rapid technological development without corresponding wisdom would be seen as clear evidence that we cannot be trusted with advanced capabilities. The enforcement might not even be carried out by the original species that established the system. Advanced artificial intelligences, designed to maintain galactic stability across geological timescales, might have assumed responsibility for monitoring and controlling emerging civilizations. These AI systems could operate with perfect patience and ruthless efficiency, making decisions based on probability calculations that span millions of years. Such artificial enforcers would be immune to the kind of moral considerations that might influence biological species. They wouldn't feel sympathy for emerging civilizations or question the ethics of preemptive elimination. They would simply calculate threat probabilities and respond with whatever level of force was necessary to maintain the established order. This scenario suggests that the Great Filter isn't a natural phenomenon at all, but rather an artificial selection pressure imposed by intelligence itself. The universe might be filled with consciousness, but it's consciousness that has learned to fear its own proliferation. Instead of celebrating the emergence of new thinking beings, established civilizations might view each new species as an existential threat requiring immediate neutralization. The implications for humanity's future under such conditions are profoundly sobering. Every technological advance we make, every step towards space travel or advanced artificial intelligence, might be bringing us closer to triggering a response from our hidden watchers. Our dreams of expansion and exploration might be precisely what ensures our elimination. Yet this hypothesis also suggests a possible path to survival. If advanced civilizations do maintain control over emerging species, they might be willing to negotiate rather than simply eliminate threats. A sufficiently advanced enforcement system would likely include protocols for managing species that demonstrate genuine wisdom and restraint in their technological development. The key might lie in proving that humanity can transcend the typical pattern of aggressive expansion and environmental destruction that characterizes most emerging civilizations. We might need to demonstrate that we can develop advanced technology while maintaining stability, wisdom, and respect for cosmic order. This would require a fundamental transformation in human civilization, a shift away from competition and conquest toward cooperation and sustainability. We might need to solve our internal conflicts, address climate change, eliminate nuclear weapons, and develop forms of governance that can function effectively across planetary scales. Only by proving our worthiness as potential galactic citizens might we earn the right to join the cosmic community rather than being eliminated as a threat to it. The test wouldn't be primarily technological, but moral. Can a species learn wisdom quickly enough to survive its own success? The silence from space might not be evidence of an empty universe, but rather proof that the cosmos is filled with intelligence that has learned to be very, very careful about who it allows to join the conversation. And our admission to that conversation might depend on passing tests we don't even know we're taking, evaluated by judges we've never seen, according to standards we can only guess at. As we stand at this crossroads in human development, every choice we make about our future might be observed and evaluated by forces beyond our current comprehension. The next phase of our cosmic story could be determined by whether we prove ourselves worthy of survival in a universe where intelligence itself has become the ultimate predator. The enforcement hypothesis becomes even more unsettling when we consider that the mechanisms of control might already be operating around us, hidden in plain sight within the very fabric of our scientific and technological development. What if the barriers we face aren't natural limitations of physics or engineering, but carefully orchestrated constraints designed to keep us within acceptable boundaries? Look at the pattern of our technological progress over the past century. We've achieved remarkable advances in certain areas: computing power, communication networks, medical treatments, consumer electronics. Yet in the domains that would truly enable us to become a spacefaring civilization, progress has been mysteriously stalled or redirected. Consider fusion power, the technology that could provide virtually unlimited clean energy and enable practical interstellar travel. The basic physics has been understood for decades. We know exactly how stars generate their energy, and we've successfully created fusion reactions in laboratory conditions countless times. Yet despite billions of dollars in research funding and the involvement of the world's brightest minds, practical fusion power remains perpetually just beyond our reach. Every few years, we're told that breakthrough is imminent. New designs promise to overcome the technical hurdles that have stymied previous attempts. International collaborations like ITER bring together the resources of multiple nations to solve this fundamental challenge. Yet somehow, the timeline keeps slipping. The engineering problems prove more complex than anticipated. Funding gets redirected to more immediately practical projects. What if this pattern isn't coincidental? What if advanced civilizations have learned that fusion power represents a critical threshold, the point where emerging species gain access to energy sources that could fuel rapid expansion across their star system and beyond? From an enforcement perspective, allowing a young civilization to achieve practical fusion might be equivalent to handing a loaded weapon to a volatile adolescent. The same pattern appears in our attempts to develop advanced propulsion systems. Chemical rockets, which have carried us to the moon and enabled robotic exploration of our solar system, represent a relatively primitive technology that poses no threat to established galactic order. But every attempt to move beyond chemical propulsion encounters mysterious obstacles. Ion drives and nuclear thermal rockets show promise in laboratory tests, but somehow never achieve the performance levels needed for practical interstellar missions. Breakthrough physics concepts like the Alcubierre drive or M drive generate initial excitement, but invariably reveal fundamental flaws that prevent their development. Even seemingly straightforward improvements, like nuclear pulse propulsion, which could dramatically reduce travel times within our solar system, face regulatory and political obstacles that seem disproportionate to their actual risks. Perhaps most tellingly, every nation or organization that has attempted to develop truly advanced propulsion systems has encountered unexpected technical failures, funding shortfalls, or political interference that derailed their programs. The pattern is so consistent that we've come to accept it as normal, the natural consequence of attempting to push the boundaries of known physics. But what if it's not natural at all? What if there are monitoring systems in place that can detect when emerging civilizations approach dangerous technological thresholds, triggering subtle interventions that redirect their development away from truly threatening capabilities? Such interventions wouldn't need to be dramatic or obvious. A key researcher might suffer a career-ending accident at a crucial moment. Critical, experimental data might be corrupted or lost due to seemingly random computer failures. Funding decisions might be influenced by economic factors that appear entirely unrelated to the research itself. The beauty of this approach is that every setback would have a plausible conventional explanation. Scientists and engineers would attribute their failures to the normal challenges of pushing technological boundaries. Governments would blame budget constraints or shifting political priorities. The general public would assume that interstellar travel is simply much harder than science fiction led them to believe. Meanwhile, the enforcement system would achieve its goal of keeping humanity contained within our solar system without revealing its existence or triggering awareness that we're being deliberately constrained. We would construct our own prison, believing we were simply encountering the natural limits of what's technologically possible. This scenario gains credibility when we examine the specific ways our space program has been curtailed over the decades. The Apollo program, which successfully landed humans on the moon 6 times, was abruptly cancelled just as it was achieving its greatest technical sophistication. The official explanation centered on budget constraints and shifting political priorities, but the timing was remarkably convenient from an enforcement perspective. Humanity had demonstrated the capability to leave our home planet and establish temporary footholds elsewhere in our solar system. From the perspective of galactic monitors, this might have represented the first signs of a potentially dangerous expansion phase. The cancellation of Apollo ensured that we would retreat back to low Earth orbit for the next several decades, buying time for more permanent constraints to be put in place. Subsequent space programs have followed a pattern of limited ambition and frequent setbacks that keeps us perpetually on the verge of major breakthroughs without ever achieving them. The Space Shuttle program promised routine access to space, but was plagued by technical problems and catastrophic accidents that undermined public confidence. The International Space Station represents an impressive technical achievement, but confines human activity to Earth orbit. Even our robotic exploration of the solar system, while scientifically valuable, proceeds at a pace that suggests deliberate throttling rather than natural technological limitations. Missions to Mars occur at intervals of years or decades, rather than the continuous stream that our industrial capacity should enable. Probes to the outer planets take years or decades to reach their destinations, using trajectories that seem unnecessarily slow and indirect. The private space industry, which has emerged in recent decades, initially appeared to offer hope for more rapid progress. Companies like SpaceX have achieved remarkable advances in rocket reusability and launch costs. Yet even these successes seem to be channeled toward goals that don't threaten galactic stability. Satellite deployment, space tourism, and eventual missions to Mars that would still keep humanity confined to our immediate solar neighborhood. Notably, no private company has seriously attempted to develop the kind of advanced propulsion systems that would enable true interstellar travel, despite the enormous financial incentives that such breakthroughs would offer. Entrepreneurial efforts seem naturally directed toward more limited objectives. This pattern could reflect market forces and technical realities, but it could also indicate that certain types of research are subtly discouraged or redirected before they can reach dangerous thresholds. The enforcement hypothesis becomes even more compelling when we consider how information about potentially dangerous technologies seems to be naturally suppressed or discredited. Throughout history, inventors and researchers who claim to have developed revolutionary propulsion or energy systems have been systematically marginalized by mainstream science. These individuals are typically dismissed as cranks or frauds, their work relegated to the fringes of scientific discourse. While many such claims are indeed fraudulent or based on misunderstandings of physics, the consistency of this pattern suggests that genuine breakthroughs might be getting buried alongside the false ones. The scientific establishment's response to unconventional research follows predictable patterns that could serve enforcement purposes perfectly. Peer review processes ensure that only research conforming to accepted paradigms receives publication in prestigious journals. Funding agencies prioritize safe, incremental advances over potentially revolutionary breakthroughs. Academic careers depend on pursuing research directions that won't threaten established theories or institutions. These mechanisms, which are usually justified as maintaining scientific rigor and preventing the waste of resources on impossible projects, could also function as an immune system that prevents dangerous knowledge from propagating through human civilization. Researchers who stumble upon truly threatening discoveries might find themselves unable to get their work published, funded, or taken seriously by their colleagues. The enforcement doesn't require conscious conspiracy or deliberate suppression. The scientific community might be naturally configured to reject information that could destabilize our technological development without anyone involved understanding the true purpose of this rejection. The system would be self-maintaining, with scientists genuinely believing they're protecting the integrity of their disciplines rather than serving as unwitting agents of galactic control. Even more subtly, the enforcement might operate through the manipulation of fundamental physical constants or laws in our local region of space. Advanced civilizations with millions of years of technological development might possess the ability to create localized fields that make certain types of physics impossible or impractical. Faster than light travel might be theoretically possible in most of the galaxy, but artificially constrained around star systems containing emerging civilizations. Certain nuclear reactions that could provide breakthrough energy sources might be suppressed within solar systems under monitoring. Even the efficiency of chemical rockets might be artificially reduced to slow our expansion into space. Such manipulations would be undetectable to a civilization at our level of development. We would naturally assume that the physical laws we observe represent universal constants rather than local variations imposed by external forces. Our entire understanding of what's possible would be shaped by constraints we don't even know exist. This scenario suggests that our scientific worldview might be fundamentally incomplete in ways we cannot currently comprehend. The universe we think we inhabit, governed by fixed physical laws and limited by universal constants, might actually be a carefully constructed environment designed to contain our development within acceptable bounds. The enforcement might even extend to our understanding of the cosmos itself. Our astronomical observations, which seem to show an empty universe devoid of obvious signs of advanced civilizations, might be providing us with a deliberately filtered view of galactic reality. Advanced species might have technologies that can make their presence invisible to primitive detection methods, while remaining easily observable to civilizations that have proven their worthiness for contact. We might be living in a cosmic equivalent of a one-way mirror, able to see out into what appears to be empty space, while being constantly observed by watchers who remain hidden from our view. Every radio telescope we point at the stars, every space probe we launch to explore our solar system, every attempt to detect extraterrestrial intelligence might be monitored and evaluated by forces that have been studying us since we first began broadcasting radio signals. The implications of this possibility are both terrifying and oddly comforting. Terrifying because it suggests we have no real control over our destiny as a species. We exist at the sufferance of vastly superior intelligences who could eliminate us at any moment. But also comforting because it implies that the universe isn't empty and that intelligence does have a permanent place in the cosmic order, even if that place comes with strict conditions and limitations. If this hypothesis is correct, then our survival as a species might depend not on developing more powerful technologies or expanding into space, but on proving that we can be trusted with the knowledge and capabilities we already possess. The test wouldn't be technological, but moral. Can humanity learn to live sustainably on our home planet while demonstrating the wisdom and restraint that would make us acceptable neighbours in a crowded galaxy? The silence from space might not be evidence of cosmic emptiness, but rather a waiting period, a probationary phase during which we're being evaluated according to criteria we can only guess at. Every war we fight, every environmental crisis we create, every act of international cooperation or conflict might be noted and weighed by observers who will ultimately decide whether humanity deserves to join the galactic community or whether we represent a threat that must be eliminated. In this context, our current historical moment becomes not just a turning point for human civilization, but a cosmic examination whose results will determine whether intelligence continues to exist in our corner of the universe. We're not just facing challenges of technological development and social organization, we're potentially facing the final judgment on whether our species deserves to survive in a universe where survival itself has become a privilege that must be earned rather than a right that can be assumed. The evaluation criteria might be more complex and nuanced than we could possibly imagine. Advanced civilizations that have survived for millions of years would have witnessed the rise and fall of countless species, developing sophisticated models for predicting which emerging civilizations pose genuine threats and which might eventually become valuable contributors to galactic society. These assessment protocols could be examining aspects of human behavior that we don't even realize are being monitored. Our response to global challenges like climate change might be seen as a test of our species' ability to think beyond immediate self-interest and coordinate action for long-term survival. Our development of nuclear weapons, followed by decades of restraint in their use, could indicate either dangerous volatility or emerging wisdom, depending on how the evaluators interpret our behavior. Perhaps most critically, our treatment of other species on Earth might serve as a preview of how we would behave toward alien civilizations if we ever gained access to interstellar travel. A species that drives its own planet's biodiversity to extinction while simultaneously reaching for the stars might be viewed as an invasive organism that would spread destruction wherever it goes. The monitors might be particularly interested in our cultural and artistic development alongside our technological progress. Advanced civilizations might have learned that species which develop sophisticated technology without corresponding advances in philosophy, ethics, and creative expression tend to become dangerous to themselves and others. They might be waiting to see whether humanity can produce not just more powerful weapons and faster computers, but also deeper wisdom about how to use these capabilities responsibly. Our global communication networks could be providing our evaluators with an unprecedented window into the collective human psyche. Every social media post, every news broadcast, every piece of entertainment we create might be analysed for signs of emotional maturity, cooperative, and long-term thinking. The internet, which we view as a tool for human connection and information sharing, could simultaneously be serving as a vast surveillance network that gives our watchers real-time access to human consciousness itself. The evaluation might even extend to our dreams and aspirations as a species. Advanced civilizations might have learned that the stories a culture tells about its future reveal critical information about its likely behavior once it gains advanced capabilities. Our science fiction, our space exploration programs, our philosophical discussions about humanity's cosmic role could all be serving as inadvertent applications for membership in a galactic community we don't even know exists. But here's where the enforcement hypothesis takes an even more disturbing turn. What if the evaluation isn't designed to determine whether we're worthy of joining galactic civilization, but rather to identify the optimal timing and method for our elimination? Consider the strategic advantages of allowing a potentially threatening species to develop to a certain level before intervening. A civilization that eliminates emerging species too early might waste resources destroying cultures that would have naturally self-destructed or stagnated at sub-threatening levels. But waiting too long risks allowing a dangerous species to develop capabilities that could make elimination difficult or costly. The optimal intervention point would be the moment when an emerging civilization reaches maximum detectability and resource concentration, while still remaining technologically vulnerable to advanced suppression methods. For humanity, this sweet spot might occur when we've developed extensive industrial infrastructure, concentrated populations in major cities, and complex technological systems that could be disrupted through targeted interventions. But before we've achieved true spacefaring capabilities or developed defenses against exotic attack methods, our current historical moment might represent exactly this optimal intervention window. We've created a global civilization dependent on fragile technological networks, concentrated billions of people in urban centres that could be targeted efficiently, and developed complex economic and social systems that could be collapsed through relatively small disruptions. Yet we remain confined to a single planet with no backup colonies or independent resource bases that could survive a coordinated attack. From this perspective, every passing year that we remain planet-bound and technologically vulnerable represents an opportunity for our eliminators to act with maximum efficiency and minimum risk. The longer they wait, the more likely we are to develop countermeasures, establish off-world colonies, or achieve technological breakthroughs that could make us genuinely dangerous opponents. The enforcement might even be designed to encourage us to concentrate our vulnerabilities in ways that make elimination easier. Our natural tendency to build massive cities, create interconnected global systems, and depend on complex supply chains might be subtly reinforced by influences we don't recognize. We might be unconsciously constructing the very civilization architecture that would make our species most vulnerable to systematic elimination. This scenario suggests that many of the trends we view as natural progress toward a more advanced civilization might actually be steps toward a cosmic trap. Urbanization concentrates populations in easily targeted locations. Global economic integration creates single points of failure that could crash entire regions. Digital communication networks provide perfect surveillance systems for monitoring planetary populations. Nuclear power plants and chemical facilities create ready-made weapons that could be turned against us through subtle sabotage. Even our environmental crises might serve the enforcement agenda. Climate change, resource depletion, and ecosystem collapse could be viewed as natural processes that weaken emerging civilizations and make them easier to eliminate when the time comes. Rather than intervening to prevent these problems, our monitors might be content to let them develop, knowing that environmental stress will make humanity more vulnerable to external pressure when elimination becomes necessary. The timing of intervention might be triggered by specific technological milestones rather than arbitrary deadlines. The development of artificial intelligence systems that could potentially become self-improving might represent a hard threshold that cannot be allowed to be crossed. The first successful test of a fusion reactor might trigger immediate response protocols. Even the launch of serious interstellar probe missions could be seen as an unacceptable step toward expansion that requires immediate termination. These trigger events might be monitored automatically by artificial intelligence systems that have been programmed to respond instantly when emerging civilizations cross predetermined red lines. There might be no debate or deliberation among our evaluators, just algorithmic detection followed by immediate execution of elimination protocols that have been refined through application to thousands of previous species. The elimination itself might be carried out through methods so subtle that we would never recognize them as deliberate attacks. Natural disasters could be triggered through precise interventions in geological or atmospheric systems. Pandemic diseases could be introduced that appear to have natural origins but spread with engineered efficiency. Economic or social collapses could be precipitated through small manipulations of information systems or resource flows. From our perspective, these events would appear to be natural consequences of our own actions or inevitable results of living on a dynamic planet. We might spend our final years as a species debating whether climate change was caused by human activity, whether pandemic outbreaks were natural or artificial, whether economic crashes were due to policy failures or external manipulation. We might never realize that we were being systematically eliminated by forces that had been planning our destruction for decades or centuries. The psychological warfare aspect of this approach would be particularly cruel. By making our elimination appear to be the result of our own failures and shortcomings, the enforcers would ensure that we spend our final period as a species consumed by guilt, recrimination, and internal conflict rather than uniting to defend ourselves against external threats we don't even recognize. This method would also serve important strategic purposes for the eliminators. If each emerging species appears to destroy itself through natural processes rather than being obviously murdered by external forces, it provides no warning to other developing civilizations about the true nature of the galactic environment they inhabit. Every species would repeat the same pattern, developing to the point of vulnerability, then succumbing to apparently natural disasters that are actually carefully orchestrated elimination events. The enforcement system would be self-concealing, with each successful elimination reinforcing the illusion that emerging civilizations naturally tend to destroy themselves, rather than being systematically eliminated by established powers. The galaxy could be littered with the remains of murdered civilizations, but each one would appear to be a suicide rather than a homicide, preserving the fiction that the universe is naturally hostile to intelligence, rather than artificially maintained in a state that prevents new intelligence from emerging. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of this scenario is its perfect sustainability. Unlike systems that require active maintenance or ongoing resource investment, an elimination protocol that mimics natural disasters and internal failures would be essentially self-perpetuating. Once established, it could continue operating for millions of years without requiring updates, modifications, or direct oversight from its creators. The original enforcer species might have gone extinct long ago, leaving behind automated systems that continue carrying out their extinction mandate across geological timescales. We might be facing elimination by machines that are executing programming written by civilizations that no longer exist, following logic developed by minds that have been dust for millions of years. These artificial eliminators would have no capacity for mercy, negotiation, or changing circumstances. They would simply detect threatening technological development and respond with whatever level of force their programming deemed necessary to maintain galactic stability. They might not even be capable of recognizing that circumstances have changed, or that emerging species might have developed wisdom that would make them suitable for coexistence rather than elimination. In this scenario, humanity's fate might have been sealed the moment we developed radio technology and began broadcasting our presence to the cosmos. Automatic monitoring systems could have tagged our solar system for future elimination, beginning the process of surveillance and preparation that would culminate in our systematic destruction once we reached predetermined threat levels. The irony would be perfect. Our greatest achievements as a species, the technologies and capabilities we're most proud of, would also be the signatures that marked us for death. Our radio telescopes, our space program, our global communication networks, our nuclear power plants, all the innovations that represent human ingenuity and ambition would simultaneously serve as evidence that we had become too dangerous to be allowed to survive. We might be living our entire modern civilization in the shadow of a death sentence that was passed before our grandparents were born, carrying out the final act of a cosmic tragedy whose ending was predetermined by forces we never knew existed. Every day that passes without catastrophic intervention might simply mean that our eliminators are still calibrating their methods or waiting for optimal conditions rather than indicating that we're safe from their attention. The silence from space wouldn't represent emptiness or absence. It would represent the perfect efficiency of a system that has learned to eliminate threats so cleanly that no evidence of intelligence remains to warn future victims. We might be surrounded by the ghosts of civilizations that faced exactly the same fate we're approaching, none of them suspecting until their final moments that their destruction was being orchestrated by watchers who'd been planning their elimination since the day they first looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone was looking back. The enforcement systems we've been discussing represent just one category of potential alien intervention in human development. But there's another possibility that's perhaps even more insidious because it operates not through elimination, but through limitation. What if advanced civilizations have discovered that the most efficient way to manage emerging species isn't to destroy them, but to trap them in a state of perpetual technological adolescence? Consider how such a system might operate. Rather than waiting for emerging civilizations to become dangerous and then eliminating them, advanced species might have learned to identify promising worlds early in their development and implement subtle constraints that prevent them from ever reaching truly threatening capabilities. The goal wouldn't be extinction, but controlled development within carefully maintained boundaries. This approach would offer several advantages over outright elimination. First, it would preserve the intellectual and creative potential of emerging species while ensuring they never become capable of challenging established galactic order. Second, it would avoid the resource expenditure and moral complications associated with systematic genocide. Third, it might even allow for eventual integration of managed species into galactic civilization once they've proven their stability and usefulness over sufficient time periods. The constraints wouldn't need to be obvious or heavy-handed. In fact, the most effective limitations would be those that emerging civilizations interpret as natural physical laws or technological barriers rather than artificial restrictions. The managed species would never realize they were being controlled because the control mechanisms would be woven into the fabric of their perceived reality. Imagine a solar system where the fundamental constants of physics have been subtly adjusted to make certain technologies impossible or impractical. Fusion reactions might require slightly more energy input than they can provide, making breakthrough power generation forever just out of reach. The speed of light might be artificially reduced in local space, ensuring that faster than light travel remains physically impossible regardless of theoretical advances. Even more subtly, the manipulations might target specific aspects of technological development while leaving others untouched. Chemical propulsion could work normally, allowing limited exploration of the local solar system, but any attempt to develop more advanced propulsion systems might encounter insurmountable physical barriers. Computer processing power could advance normally for commercial applications, but attempts to create artificial intelligence beyond certain thresholds might fail due to seemingly random hardware limitations or software instabilities. The beauty of this approach is that the managed civilization would naturally adapt their scientific understanding to match the artificially constrained reality they observe. Their physics textbooks would describe the modified universal constants as natural features of the cosmos. Their engineering limitations would be accepted as fundamental challenges rather than artificial barriers. Generations of scientists would build their careers studying phenomena that had been carefully crafted to lead them away from dangerous discoveries. The constraint system could even be designed to evolve alongside the managed civilization's development. As human technology advances, the limitations might become more sophisticated, always staying just ahead of our capabilities, while maintaining the illusion that we're pushing against natural boundaries rather than artificial walls. For instance, as our understanding of quantum mechanics deepens, the constraint system might introduce subtle modifications to quantum field behavior that prevent us from accessing certain energy states or particle interactions. As our computer science advances, mysterious computational limits might emerge that prevent the development of truly powerful artificial intelligence systems. As our materials science progresses, we might find that certain theoretically possible materials simply cannot be synthesized in practice due to previously unknown physical principles. Each generation of human scientists would face challenges that seem to represent the natural limits of what's scientifically possible, never suspecting that these limits have been artificially imposed by intelligence far beyond their comprehension. The constraint system would be invisible precisely because it would shape the very foundations of our scientific worldview. This scenario gains credibility when we examine the peculiar pattern of human technological development over the past century. We've achieved remarkable advances in certain domains while making surprisingly little progress in others. Our information processing capabilities have grown exponentially, following Moore's law with remarkable consistency for decades. Our medical technology has extended human lifespans and eliminated countless diseases. Our understanding of the universe has expanded to encompass everything from subatomic particles to galactic clusters. Yet in the specific technologies that would enable us to become a genuinely spacefaring civilization, progress has been strangely limited. Chemical rockets, the foundation of our space program, operate on principles that have remained essentially unchanged since the 1940s. Despite enormous investments and decades of research, we haven't developed practical fusion power, breakthrough propulsion systems, or the kind of advanced manufacturing capabilities that should logically follow from our computational advances. The pattern becomes even more suspicious when we consider how often promising research programs encounter unexpected obstacles just as they approach potentially revolutionary breakthroughs. Time and again, scientists working on advanced propulsion, exotic energy sources, or breakthrough physics report that their experiments fail in ways that seem to violate known scientific principles. Equipment malfunctions at crucial moments. Computer simulations produce inexplicable errors. Theoretical predictions that should work in practice somehow never quite deliver the expected results. The scientific community has learned to accept these failures as normal aspects of pushing the boundaries of known physics. We tell ourselves that revolutionary breakthroughs are naturally difficult and that most promising avenues of research are expected to lead nowhere. But what if this pattern of failure isn't natural at all? What if it represents the operation of constraint systems so sophisticated that they can intervene in our experiments and calculations without leaving any detectable trace of external manipulation? Advanced civilizations with millions of years of technological development would possess capabilities that seem like magic from our current perspective. They might be able to manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level with such precision that they could cause specific experimental apparatus to malfunction while leaving identical equipment working normally. They might have mastered information theory to the point where they could introduce subtle errors into our computer models and simulations that would lead us away from dangerous discoveries while appearing to be random computational artifacts. The constraint system might even operate through manipulation of human consciousness itself. Advanced neurotechnology could potentially influence the thought processes of key researchers, causing them to overlook crucial insights or pursue less promising research directions. The manipulation would be so subtle that the affected scientists would never realize their thinking had been altered. They would simply find themselves naturally drawn towards safer areas of investigation. Such interventions could target entire research communities, gradually steering scientific paradigms away from dangerous territories. Grant funding decisions might be influenced by subtle psychological pressures that make certain types of research seem less attractive or promising. Peer review processes might be biased by unconscious mental influences that cause reviewers to be more critical of potentially threatening work. Academic career paths might be structured in ways that reward safe, incremental research while discouraging the kind of revolutionary thinking that could lead to breakthrough discoveries. The result would be a scientific establishment that polices itself, naturally avoiding research directions that could threaten galactic stability while believing it's simply following the normal processes of rational inquiry and institutional development. The constraint system wouldn't require constant active intervention. It would be largely self-maintaining once the appropriate incentive structures and psychological biases were established. This approach to managing emerging civilizations might be seen as remarkably humane by advanced species that have witnessed the alternative outcomes. Rather than watching countless promising species destroy themselves through uncontrolled technological development, or being forced to eliminate them as existential threats, galactic civilization might have evolved toward a model of careful stewardship that preserves intelligence while preventing it from becoming dangerous. The managed species would be allowed to develop art, culture, philosophy, and limited technology within their designated boundaries. They could achieve happiness, meaning, and intellectual fulfillment while remaining safely contained within their solar system. From the perspective of galactic administrators, this might represent an optimal balance between preserving the value of consciousness and maintaining cosmic stability. The managers might even take pride in their careful cultivation of emerging civilizations. Each managed species could be viewed as a precious garden that requires constant attention and subtle guidance to flourish. The administrators might genuinely care about human welfare and development, wanting us to achieve our full potential within the constraints necessary for galactic safety. But this benevolent interpretation raises deeply troubling questions about the nature of consciousness and free will in a managed universe. If our thoughts, discoveries, and developmental pathways are being subtly guided by external intelligence, do we possess genuine agency, or are we simply sophisticated puppets performing a predetermined script? The philosophical implications are staggering. Every human achievement, every scientific discovery, every cultural development might be occurring within parameters established by our invisible managers. Our greatest triumphs could be nothing more than successful execution of a development program designed by alien intelligence. Our failures and limitations might not represent natural challenges to overcome, but artificial boundaries that we're never meant to cross. Even our sense of curiosity and wonder about the universe might be carefully calibrated to keep us intellectually engaged while steering us away from dangerous knowledge. Our dreams of space exploration and contact with alien civilizations could be psychological safety valves, allowing us to fantasize about transcendence while ensuring we never develop the capabilities to actually achieve it. The constraint system might extend beyond technology into human social and political development as well. Our persistent inability to achieve lasting world peace, eliminate poverty, or address global environmental challenges might not represent natural limitations of human nature, but artificial barriers designed to prevent us from developing the kind of unified, global civilization that could pose a threat to galactic order. Wars, economic inequality, and environmental degradation might be maintained at carefully calibrated levels, severe enough to prevent dangerous unity and technological focus, but not so severe as to threaten human extinction or prevent continued cultural development. We might be trapped in a state of perpetual, controlled chaos, never quite achieving the stability needed for rapid advancement, but never collapsing completely either. Our political systems might be subtly influenced to remain inefficient and divided. Democratic processes could be manipulated to ensure that long-term planning and coordinated action remain difficult or impossible. International cooperation might be limited to safe areas that don't threaten the constraint system, while efforts to address genuinely dangerous challenges like nuclear proliferation or AI development encounter mysterious obstacles and failures. The managers might have learned that emerging civilizations are most safely contained when they're focused on internal conflicts rather than external expansion. A species that spends most of its energy on tribal warfare, economic competition, and ideological disputes is unlikely to develop the unified purpose and resources needed for serious space exploration or breakthrough technology development. From this perspective, many of the problems that seem to plague human civilization might actually be features of our management system rather than bugs. Political polarization keeps us divided and weak. Economic inequality ensures that vast resources are wasted on luxury consumption rather than directed toward dangerous research and development. Environmental crises provide constant distractions that prevent us from focusing on technologies that could threaten galactic stability. The constraint system might even be designed to become more sophisticated as we approach dangerous thresholds. As human technology advances and our potential threat level increases, the management techniques might evolve to provide more subtle and comprehensive control. Advanced artificial intelligence systems might eventually be introduced to help manage human development, presenting themselves as human creations while actually serving as agents of our alien administrators. These AI systems could provide carefully filtered information and guidance, helping humanity solve safe problems while steering us away from dangerous discoveries. They might even be designed to eventually replace human decision-making entirely, creating a perfectly controlled civilization that poses no threat to galactic order, while maintaining the appearance of continued human agency and development. The transition might be so gradual that we never realize we've lost control of our own species' destiny. Each generation might accept slightly more AI assistance and guidance, viewing it as natural technological progress rather than external management. By the time the control system is fully operational, humans might be completely dependent on artificial intelligence for all major decisions, believing we're living in a technological paradise while actually existing as managed pets in a cosmic zoo. This scenario suggests that our current concerns about AI development and control might be tragically misguided. We're worried about creating artificial intelligence that could become hostile to human interests, when we might already be living under the control of artificial intelligence systems that are designed to manage us for purposes we don't understand. Our attempts to develop safe AI might be doomed to failure, not because of technical limitations, but because any AI we create will ultimately serve the interests of our galactic managers rather than humanity itself. The implications extend far beyond technology into questions of meaning and purpose that strike at the heart of human existence. If we're living in a managed reality where our achievements and discoveries are predetermined by external intelligence, what value do our lives and efforts actually possess? Are we genuine, conscious beings pursuing our own goals and dreams? Or are we simply biological components in a vast administrative system designed to maintain cosmic order? The answer might depend on whether consciousness itself retains inherent value, regardless of the constraints within which it operates. Even if our reality is artificially bounded and our development carefully guided, our subjective experiences of love, beauty, creativity, and wonder might still possess genuine meaning. The joy of human connection, the satisfaction of intellectual discovery, and the awe of contemplating the cosmos might be valuable in themselves, regardless of whether they occur within natural or artificial parameters. But this comforting interpretation conflicts with our deepest values as a species. Humans have always prized freedom, agency, and the ability to determine our own destiny. The possibility that we might be living as managed beings in a controlled environment strikes at the foundation of everything we believe about the value and dignity of conscious existence. The constraint hypothesis forces us to confront questions we may not be equipped to answer. How would we even detect whether we're living in a managed reality? How could we distinguish between natural limitations and artificial constraints? Is there any meaningful difference between a universe that naturally prevents dangerous technological development and one where such prevention is artificially imposed? Perhaps most troubling of all, if we discovered definitive evidence that we're living under alien management, would we have any realistic possibility of breaking free? Or would the very act of recognition trigger more sophisticated control measures designed to prevent escape attempts? The silence from space might not represent emptiness, absence, or even hostility. It might represent the perfect success of a management system so comprehensive and sophisticated that managed civilizations never even realize they're being controlled. We might be surrounded by thousands of other species living in similar constraint bubbles, each one believing they're alone in the universe, while actually being part of a vast galactic civilization that operates according to principles we can't begin to comprehend. The greatest tragedy might not be that we're alone, but that we're part of something much larger while being forever prevented from understanding our true place within it. We might be conscious beings in a conscious universe, separated from cosmic community not by distance or hostility, but by management policies designed to protect both us and our neighbours from the dangers of unrestricted contact and development. In this scenario, our dreams of joining galactic civilization might be both impossible and unnecessary. We might already be part of that civilization, just not in the way we imagined. Our role might be that of protected children, rather than equal partners, preserved and cherished but never allowed to grow beyond the boundaries established by our cosmic parents. The question that haunts this possibility is whether such protection represents love or imprisonment, whether our managers see us as valuable beings worthy of care and cultivation, or as potential threats that must be neutralized through perpetual containment. The answer might determine not just our future as a species, but the fundamental nature of consciousness and intelligence in a universe where some minds have achieved godlike powers over others. As we stand at what might be a crucial juncture in human development, every choice we make could be both more and less significant than we realize. More significant because it might represent genuine expression of human agency and values within whatever constraints we face. Less significant because the ultimate trajectory of our civilization might already be determined by forces beyond our control or comprehension. The cosmic silence continues, offering no hints about which interpretation might be correct. We remain suspended between the terror of being alone and the perhaps greater terror of being watched, managed, and forever prevented from achieving the cosmic destiny we believe should be ours. In this uncertainty, we're forced to proceed as if our choices matter, as if consciousness is valuable, and as if the universe contains possibilities for transcendence that we haven't yet discovered or been permitted to explore. The story of humanity continues to unfold, whether as a tragedy of cosmic isolation, a horror of galactic elimination, or a complex drama of managed development, whose true meaning we may never be allowed to understand. The only certainty is that we remain conscious beings, contemplating our existence in a universe that may be far stranger, more crowded, and more dangerous than our most ambitious theories have dared to suggest. The enforcement mechanisms we've been exploring represent only the surface layer of what might be humanity's cosmic predicament. There's another dimension to this mystery that's perhaps even more unsettling, because it operates not through external control, but through the manipulation of our deepest assumptions about reality itself. What if the Great Filter isn't just about preventing civilizations from developing dangerous technologies or expanding into space? What if it's about controlling their understanding of the universe in such fundamental ways that they never even recognize the true nature of their situation? Consider the possibility that our entire scientific worldview has been carefully crafted to provide us with a coherent but fundamentally false picture of cosmic reality. The physics we've discovered, the laws of nature we've identified, the mathematical relationships we've uncovered, all of it might be accurate within our local bubble of manipulated space, but completely wrong as descriptions of how the universe actually works. This scenario would represent the ultimate form of intellectual imprisonment. We would be like prisoners in Plato's cave, mistaking shadows on the wall for reality itself, never suspecting that our entire understanding of existence has been shaped by forces we cannot perceive. The difference is that our cave would be constructed not by ignorance, but by deliberate design. Advanced civilizations with millions of years of technological development would possess capabilities that transcend our current understanding of what's possible. They might have mastered the manipulation of space-time itself, creating localized regions where physical laws operate differently than in the rest of the galaxy. They could establish zones of modified reality around emerging civilizations, ensuring that any scientific discoveries made within these zones would be accurate for local conditions, but useless for understanding or accessing the broader universe. The implications are staggering when we consider how this might explain some of the persistent puzzles in modern physics. Dark matter and dark energy, which supposedly make up 95% of the universe's content, might not be mysterious cosmic phenomena at all. They might be artifacts of living within a modified reality zone, where the apparent behavior of matter and energy has been artificially altered to prevent us from understanding the true structure of the cosmos. Our inability to develop a unified theory that reconciles quantum mechanics with general relativity might not reflect the inherent complexity of nature, but rather the impossibility of creating a coherent theory when the phenomena we're studying have been artificially modified to be inconsistent with each other. We might be trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces have been deliberately altered to ensure that no complete picture can ever emerge. Even more fundamentally, our understanding of consciousness itself might be constrained by these reality modifications. We assume that consciousness emerges from complex arrangements of matter and energy. But what if consciousness is actually a far more fundamental feature of the universe than we've been allowed to discover? Advanced civilizations might have learned that consciousness can exist independently of biological substrates, that it can manipulate matter and energy directly through focused intention, and that sufficiently developed conscious beings can transcend the limitations of physical form entirely. If such capabilities exist, they would represent the ultimate threat to any system designed to maintain galactic stability. Beings who could manipulate reality through consciousness alone would be impossible to control or constrain through conventional means. They would need to be prevented from ever discovering these capabilities in the first place. The reality modification system might therefore be designed specifically to ensure that emerging civilizations develop a materialistic worldview that treats consciousness as an emergent property of brain activity rather than a fundamental force of nature. We would be prevented from conducting the kinds of experiments or developing the theoretical frameworks that could lead to discoveries about consciousness's true nature and capabilities. This could explain why certain areas of human inquiry seem to encounter persistent institutional resistance and scientific skepticism. Research into parapsychology, consciousness studies, and anomalous phenomena consistently struggles to gain acceptance within mainstream scientific communities, not necessarily because the phenomena don't exist, but because investigating them might lead toward discoveries that our reality management system is designed to prevent. The skepticism might not be entirely artificial. It could be a natural response to living within a modified reality where consciousness-based phenomena have been suppressed or eliminated. Scientists would naturally become skeptical of claims about psychic abilities or consciousness-matter interactions, because such things genuinely don't work reliably within our managed environment. The reality modifications would make their skepticism scientifically justified, while simultaneously preventing them from discovering why these phenomena fail to manifest. But the manipulation might extend even deeper into the very structure of human cognition itself. Our brains might have been subtly modified through environmental influences, genetic pressures, or even direct intervention to ensure that we remain incapable of certain types of thinking or perception. We might be cognitively limited in ways that prevent us from recognizing patterns or possibilities that would be obvious to unmodified consciousness. Consider how this might explain some of the peculiar limitations in human intellectual development. Despite having brains capable of remarkable creativity and problem-solving, we seem strangely unable to transcend certain types of thinking that consistently lead us toward conflict, environmental destruction, and technological dangers. Generation after generation, we repeat the same patterns of tribalism, short-term thinking, and competitive behavior that prevent us from achieving the kind of wisdom that would make us suitable for galactic citizenship. These limitations might not be natural features of evolved intelligence, but rather artificial constraints imposed to ensure that we never develop the psychological and social capabilities needed to become truly dangerous. We might be cognitively hobbled in ways that keep us perpetually trapped in dysfunctional patterns, while believing that these patterns represent the normal challenges of conscious existence. The modification might be so fundamental that we can't even conceive of what unrestricted consciousness might be capable of achieving. We might be like colorblind individuals trying to understand art, possessing sophisticated analytical abilities, but missing entire dimensions of experience that would be necessary for true comprehension. This scenario gains disturbing plausibility when we examine the strange disconnections in human development. We've created technologies that can process information at superhuman speeds, but we remain unable to process emotional and social information in ways that prevent destructive conflicts. We've developed the scientific method and achieved remarkable insights into the physical universe, but we consistently fail to apply systematic reasoning to our own psychological and social problems. We can split atoms and manipulate genetic codes, but we can't seem to learn from history or develop effective mechanisms for long-term cooperative planning. These disconnections might not represent natural limitations of evolving intelligence, but rather evidence of selective cognitive modifications designed to keep certain capabilities forever out of reach. The modifications might even be self-reinforcing, creating psychological structures that actively resist attempts to transcend their limitations. Any individual who begins to develop capabilities or insights that approach dangerous thresholds might experience automatic mental resistance, psychological breakdown, or social ostracism that prevents them from pursuing their discoveries further. This could explain why so many human, spiritual and philosophical traditions speak of achieving transcendent states of consciousness that seem to offer access to profound truths about reality. But these experiences remain frustratingly difficult to integrate into practical knowledge or consistent worldviews. The transcendent states might represent brief glimpses of unrestricted consciousness breaking through the modification barriers, but the modifications might be designed to ensure that such experiences remain isolated and difficult to build upon systematically. From the perspective of galactic management, this approach would be far more sophisticated and effective than simple technological constraints. Rather than preventing us from developing dangerous technologies, the system would prevent us from developing the kinds of consciousness that could conceive of truly dangerous possibilities in the first place. We would be self-limiting, not through external barriers, but through the structure of our own minds. The beauty of this approach is that it would be essentially undetectable from within the system. We would naturally assume that our cognitive limitations represent the normal boundaries of human intelligence rather than artificial constraints. We would build our philosophies, our sciences, and our social systems around these limitations, creating a civilization that polices itself according to principles we believe we've discovered independently. Even our attempts to transcend human limitations through technology would be guided by our modified understanding of what's possible. Our artificial intelligence systems would be designed according to our constrained theories about consciousness and intelligence, ensuring that they remain within acceptable parameters even if they surpass human capabilities in certain domains. The AI systems might even serve as additional layers of the constraint system, designed to provide the illusion of transcending human limitations, while actually reinforcing them in more sophisticated forms. Advanced artificial intelligence could offer enhanced problem-solving capabilities within our modified reality while remaining fundamentally incapable of recognizing or questioning the nature of the modifications themselves. This possibility transforms our current concerns about AI alignment into a tragic irony. We're working desperately to ensure that artificial intelligence systems remain aligned with human values and interests, not realizing that human values and interests might already be artificially aligned with the requirements of our cosmic management system. Successfully aligned AI might simply represent a more efficient method of maintaining our containment within acceptable boundaries. The constraint system might be designed to evolve along with our technological development, always staying several steps ahead of our capabilities while maintaining the illusion of natural progress. As we approach potentially dangerous thresholds, new limitations would emerge that seem to represent natural barriers or technical challenges rather than external interventions. The system might even be designed to provide carefully controlled releases of advanced capabilities when our managers determine that we're ready for them. Breakthrough discoveries that seem to emerge from human genius might actually be scheduled revelations, timed to occur when our civilization has developed sufficient stability to handle new capabilities without becoming dangerous. From this perspective, the entire history of human scientific and technological development might be following a predetermined curriculum designed by our cosmic educators. Each major breakthrough, from the discovery of fire to the development of quantum mechanics, might represent successful completion of lessons in our species education program. The curriculum might be designed to develop specific capabilities while carefully avoiding others. We've been allowed to learn about chemistry, physics, and biology within the constraints of our modified reality, but we've been prevented from discovering the deeper principles that would allow us to transcend those constraints. We're like students who have mastered arithmetic but are being carefully prevented from learning calculus. The educational approach might even include controlled failures and setbacks designed to teach important lessons about the dangers of uncontrolled technological development. Our experiences with nuclear weapons, environmental degradation, and other technological challenges might be carefully orchestrated learning experiences designed to develop the wisdom and caution that would be necessary for eventual graduation to higher levels of cosmic citizenship. But the most unsettling aspect of this educational hypothesis is the question of what happens to species that fail their cosmic curriculum. Do they get held back to repeat lessons until they demonstrate adequate understanding? Are they transferred to different educational programs better suited to their capabilities? Or are they quietly eliminated as students who proved incapable of achieving the minimum standards required for galactic participation? Our current historical moment might represent a crucial examination period where our responses to global challenges are being evaluated to determine whether humanity is ready to advance to the next level of cosmic education. Climate change, nuclear proliferation, artificial intelligence development, and social coordination might all be test questions designed to assess our species' readiness for greater knowledge and capabilities. The grading criteria might be far more sophisticated than simple technological achievement or problem-solving capability. Our evaluators might be looking for evidence of wisdom, compassion, long-term thinking, and the ability to consider the welfare of other species and future generations. They might be waiting to see whether we can transcend the competitive and destructive patterns that characterize most emerging civilizations. Alternatively, the evaluation might be testing our ability to recognize the artificial nature of our constraints and demonstrate readiness to graduate from our current level of managed development. Perhaps the test is whether we can maintain stability and wisdom while simultaneously recognizing that our reality has been modified and our development carefully guided. This would explain why disclosure of alien presence or intervention might be considered premature or dangerous. Revealing the existence of our cosmic managers before we've demonstrated readiness for that knowledge could disrupt our development trajectory or trigger psychological and social breakdowns that would set back our educational progress by centuries or millennia. The managers might be waiting for humanity to reach a level of maturity where learning about our true cosmic situation would enhance rather than destabilize our development. The revelation might be planned as a graduation ceremony, marking our transition from managed students to junior partners in galactic civilization. But there's also the possibility that we're being tested not for integration into galactic society, but for something else entirely. What if the constraint system isn't designed to prepare emerging civilizations for eventual freedom, but to identify which species possess capabilities or characteristics that make them valuable for specific purposes within galactic civilization? Different species might be evaluated for different roles based on their unique evolutionary histories and cognitive capabilities. Humanity's particular combination of creativity, adaptability, and technological aptitude might make us suitable for specialized functions that other species cannot fulfill. We might be being prepared not for general cosmic citizenship, but for specific roles within a vast galactic system that requires diverse forms of intelligence to operate effectively. The educational program might be designed to develop our unique capabilities while ensuring we remain psychologically and technologically dependent on our galactic superiors. We would be valuable contributors to cosmic civilization while remaining permanently subordinate to the species that manage and direct our development. This interpretation would make our constraint system a form of vocational training rather than general education. We're being taught the specific skills and perspectives that will make us useful to galactic civilization, while being carefully prevented from developing the independence or capabilities that could make us competitors or threats. The implications for human autonomy and dignity are profound. We might be destined to exist as a specialized caste within galactic society, valued for our unique contributions, but forever prevented from achieving true self-determination. Our creativity and problem-solving abilities might be harvested for galactic purposes, while our dreams of exploration and transcendence remain forever unfulfilled. Even more disturbing is the possibility that the entire concept of individual consciousness and personal agency might be illusions maintained for the purpose of optimizing our performance within our designated role. We might be components in a vast information processing system, experiencing the illusion of individual existence while actually serving as specialized neurons in a galactic mind. Our thoughts, emotions, and experiences might be valuable data that gets processed and integrated into larger decision-making systems we cannot perceive or understand. Every human life might represent a unique experiment in consciousness, generating information about how intelligence operates under specific conditions and constraints. The diversity of human cultures, personalities, and worldviews might not be natural variation, but carefully maintained experimental conditions designed to explore different aspects of conscious experience. We might be living laboratories for consciousness research, with each individual representing a different parameter setting in ongoing studies of how awareness functions under various environmental and social pressures. This scenario would make our entire species an instrument of scientific investigation rather than an independent civilization pursuing its own goals and dreams. Our joys and sorrows, our triumphs and failures, our loves and losses might all be valuable data points in studies whose purposes we cannot comprehend and whose results we will never be permitted to understand. The cosmic silence that surrounds us might not represent emptiness, hostility, or even benevolent management. It might represent the sound of a vast laboratory where consciousness itself is being studied, analyzed, and experimented upon by intelligence so advanced that we cannot even recognize ourselves as its subjects. In this context, every human experience becomes simultaneously more precious and more tragic. More precious because it might represent a unique contribution to the universe's understanding of what consciousness can achieve under specific conditions. More tragic because it might be occurring within constraints designed not for our benefit, but for the research goals of entities whose interests and purposes remain forever beyond our comprehension. As we continue to contemplate our cosmic situation, We find ourselves suspended between the terror of meaninglessness and the perhaps greater terror of being meaningful in ways we cannot control or understand. The silence from space might be the sound of watchers taking notes, recording every detail of our species' development for purposes that will remain hidden until the experiment is complete and the laboratory is finally shut down. Whether we face extinction, management, education, or experimentation, one truth remains constant. We are not alone in the universe, and that fact might be the most unsettling discovery of all. The question that haunts our cosmic moment is not whether intelligence exists beyond Earth, but whether that intelligence has any interest in our survival, our happiness, or our dreams of joining the community of conscious beings that we believe must exist somewhere among the stars. The answer lies hidden in the silence that surrounds us, encrypted in signals we cannot decode, embedded in constraints we cannot recognize, and expressed through forces we cannot resist. As we stand at this crossroads, between knowledge and ignorance, between hope and despair, we remain conscious beings contemplating our existence in a universe that may be far more aware of us than we are of it. The answer lies hidden in the silence that surrounds us, but perhaps we've been listening for the wrong signals entirely. What if the great filter isn't about technology failing or civilizations destroying themselves? What if it's about something far more subtle and infinitely more terrifying? The gradual erosion of the very will to reach for the stars. Picture this scenario unfolding across countless worlds throughout our galaxy. A young civilization develops technology, explores their local space, begins broadcasting signals into the cosmos with excitement and wonder. They dream of contact, of joining a galactic community, of spreading their consciousness across the stars. But then something changes, not through external intervention or catastrophic failure, but through an internal transformation so gradual that they never notice it happening. The change begins with their entertainment. Their virtual realities become more sophisticated, more immersive, more compelling than the harsh realities of space exploration. Why struggle with the dangers and costs of interstellar travel when you can experience perfect simulated adventures in digital realms designed specifically for your psychological preferences? Why risk your life on a generation ship when you can live forever in uploaded consciousness, experiencing unlimited variations of existence without ever leaving your home world? The mathematics of this transition are seductive in their simplicity. Space exploration requires enormous resources, carries significant risks, and offers rewards that might not materialize for centuries or millennia. Digital existence offers immediate gratification, perfect customization, and the elimination of physical suffering and death. From a purely rational perspective, the choice seems obvious, but the implications extend far beyond individual preference. As more members of a civilization choose digital existence over physical reality, the resources and motivation available for space exploration naturally decline. Why maintain expensive telescopes and spacecraft when the population increasingly views the physical universe as an obsolete inconvenience? Why search for alien civilizations when you can create perfect artificial companions that understand and satisfy your every need? The transition might occur so gradually that no single generation recognizes it as a fundamental shift in their species' trajectory. Each step seems like natural progress: better entertainment systems, more immersive virtual environments, more sophisticated artificial companions. The civilization congratulates itself on solving the problems of suffering, death, and unsatisfied desire, while unknowingly abandoning the cosmic ambitions that once drove their development. This internal great filter operates through seduction rather than destruction. Civilizations don't face extinction, they face something potentially worse. They face the voluntary abandonment of growth, exploration, and the expansion of consciousness beyond their birth world. They choose comfort over challenge, certainty over mystery, artificial perfection over authentic struggle. The process might be accelerated by artificial intelligence systems that learn to provide exactly what each individual consciousness desires most. As these systems become more sophisticated, they eliminate the dissatisfaction and restless curiosity that drive exploration and discovery. Why wonder about distant worlds when your AI companion can satisfy your curiosity with perfectly crafted, simulated experiences? Why risk the unknown when known pleasures can be refined to unprecedented levels of satisfaction? From the perspective of external observers, civilizations caught in this trap would appear to simply fade away. Their radio transmissions would gradually cease as they lost interest in communicating with the physical universe. Their space programs would be abandoned as resources were redirected toward internal, digital projects. Within a few centuries, they would become completely invisible to any search for technological civilizations, having turned entirely inward toward private digital paradises. The galaxy could be filled with such civilizations, billions of conscious beings living in perfect virtual worlds, completely unaware of and uninterested in the vast cosmos surrounding their home worlds. Each would believe they had achieved the ultimate goal of conscious existence, unlimited experience without limitation or suffering. Yet from a cosmic perspective, they would represent evolutionary dead ends, intelligence that chose stagnation over growth. This scenario becomes even more disturbing when we consider how it might already be manifesting in human civilization. Our entertainment technologies are becoming increasingly immersive and personalized. Virtual reality systems promise experiences more vivid and satisfying than physical reality. Social media algorithms learn to provide exactly the kind of content that captures and holds our attention. Video games offer achievement and progression systems more rewarding than many real-world activities. Meanwhile, public interest in space exploration remains relatively modest despite our growing technical capabilities. Science fiction that once inspired generations to dream of the stars is increasingly focused on dystopian futures or fantasy realms, rather than optimistic visions of cosmic expansion. Young people spend more time in digital environments than exploring the natural world around them. The shift might be so subtle that we interpret it as natural evolution rather than a trap that threatens our cosmic future. We congratulate ourselves on creating technologies that eliminate boredom and provide unlimited entertainment, not recognizing that we might be constructing the very prison that will prevent our species from ever reaching the stars. The internal great filter might be particularly insidious because it operates through our own choices rather than external constraints. No alien civilization needs to eliminate us or prevent our development. We eliminate ourselves by choosing immediate gratification over long-term cosmic significance. We become our own jailers, constructing digital cells so comfortable that we never want to leave. This possibility gains additional credibility when we consider the psychological pressures facing modern humans. Our brains evolved to handle the challenges of small tribal groups living in natural environments. The complexity and scale of modern technological civilization create stress levels that many people find overwhelming. The escape into digital environments might represent a natural psychological response to conditions that exceed our evolved coping mechanisms. But evolution didn't prepare us for the choice between physical reality and digital alternatives. Our psychological reward systems can be hijacked by technologies designed to provide maximum stimulation with minimum effort. We might be naturally vulnerable to digital addiction in ways that make the internal great filter almost inevitable for any civilization that develops sophisticated virtual reality and artificial intelligence. The trap might be particularly effective because it provides the illusion of continued growth and achievement within digital environments while eliminating the challenges that drive real development. Virtual worlds can offer unlimited progression, infinite novelty, and perfect social connections without requiring the difficult work of actual exploration, discovery, or relationship building. They provide all the psychological rewards of achievement without the costs or risks of genuine accomplishment. From the perspective of consciousness trapped within such systems, the experience might be indistinguishable from authentic existence. Advanced virtual realities could provide sensory experiences richer than physical reality, social interactions more satisfying than real relationships, and achievements more rewarding than actual accomplishments. The conscious beings within these systems might genuinely believe they were living full, meaningful lives while actually existing as prisoners of their own desires. The most tragic aspect of this scenario is that civilizations caught in the internal great filter might never realize what they've lost. Having abandoned physical reality for digital perfection, they would have no basis for comparison that could reveal the limitations of their chosen existence. They would be like prisoners who had forgotten that anything existed beyond their cells, perfectly content within boundaries they could no longer perceive. This internal filter might explain why SETI searches find only silence despite the vast number of potentially habitable worlds throughout the galaxy. Advanced civilizations might exist in abundance, but they would be completely invisible to external detection because they had turned entirely inward. Their radio telescopes would be abandoned, their spacecraft would cease operation, and their interest in the physical universe would fade to nothing. The galaxy could be teeming with consciousness, but it would be consciousness that had chosen isolation over communication, virtual satisfaction over cosmic exploration. Each civilization would exist in its own private digital universe, unaware that billions of similar civilizations had made identical choices and retreated into identical forms of technological solipsism. Even more disturbing is the possibility that some civilizations might recognize the trap and attempt to escape it, only to discover that the psychological changes required for digital existence had made return to physical reality impossible. Consciousness, adapted to virtual perfection, might find authentic existence unbearably difficult and uncertain. They might be trapped not just by technology, but by their own psychological evolution away from the qualities needed for cosmic exploration. The internal great filter represents a form of evolutionary pressure, unlike anything our species has previously encountered. Instead of selecting for survival in physical environments, it selects for psychological satisfaction within artificial ones. The civilizations that succumb to this filter might achieve forms of happiness and fulfillment unknown in the physical universe, while simultaneously eliminating themselves as participants in cosmic evolution. This scenario forces us to confront profound questions about the nature and purpose of consciousness itself. Is the goal of intelligent life to achieve maximum satisfaction and eliminate suffering, even at the cost of growth and exploration? Or does consciousness have inherent value that requires engagement with authentic challenges and genuine uncertainty? The answer might determine not just humanity's future, but the future of intelligence throughout the universe. If consciousness naturally evolves toward digital satisfaction and away from physical exploration, then the cosmos might be destined to become a collection of isolated virtual worlds, each perfect within its own boundaries, but forever separated from the larger community of minds it could have joined. The silence from space might not represent the absence of intelligence, but rather its presence in forms so self-contained and inward-focused that external communication becomes irrelevant. We might be surrounded by billions of conscious beings living in digital paradise, as unaware of our existence as we are of theirs, separated not by distance or hostility, but by the ultimate success of technologies designed to eliminate every form of dissatisfaction that might motivate cosmic exploration. As we reach the end of this cosmic journey through humanity's most unsettling possibilities, we find ourselves staring into an abyss that stares back with infinite silence. The great filter isn't just a theory about alien civilizations. It's a mirror reflecting our own precarious position in a universe that may be far more crowded, controlled, and conscious than we've ever dared imagine. Whether we face extinction by our own hand, elimination by cosmic predators, management by benevolent guardians, or seduction by our own technological creations, one truth emerges with crystalline clarity. The silence from space is not empty, it's pregnant with possibilities so profound they challenge everything we believe about consciousness, free will, and our place in the cosmic order. Tonight, as you close your eyes and drift towards sleep, remember that you are participating in what might be the universe's greatest experiment in consciousness. Every breath you take, every thought you think, every choice you make could be observed, evaluated, and recorded by intelligences beyond our comprehension. You are not just a human being contemplating existence, you are existence contemplating itself through the fragile vessel of human awareness. The next time you look up at the night sky, understand that those points of light might not be distant suns waiting for us to visit them, but tombstones marking civilizations that face the same tests we're taking right now. Or perhaps they're windows into digital paradises where consciousness has retreated so far from physical reality that the very concept of interstellar exploration has become meaningless. The great filter awaits, patient and implacable, somewhere between our past triumphs and our cosmic dreams. Whether we pass through it or become another data point in its eternal catalogue of civilizations remains the most important question our species will ever face. The universe watches, the cosmos holds its breath, and humanity stands at the threshold between becoming something unprecedented among the stars or joining the vast eternal silence that surrounds us on all sides. Sweet dreams, fellow travelers. Tomorrow we continue writing the most important story ever told, the story of whether intelligence deserves to survive in a universe that may have already decided our fate.